Good evening all. We'll be starting our session in a couple of minutes. Good evening all. Welcome to International Webinar Series on Holistic Health, Well-being and Sustainable Development 2022. On occasion of World Social Work Month, World Health Month, World Press Freedom Month 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, and in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India, Sri Research Institute and Center for Arts, Sciences and Wellbeing. We welcome you all to the international webinar series. Before we start our session, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरु त्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
Blessings of Almighty, we shall continue to today's session. Today we have with us Dr. Edward Fenech. He is Rotarian from Malta, being dyslexic and studied work at various capacities and positions in India, Australia, Japan, UK, etc. Worked at various positions like CEO at Eden Leisure Group, the leading radio station in Malta, and the five-star international Continental Hotel, one of the founding members of Rotary Club Valet, Malta, and has served as treasurer and president, worked and associated with Rotary for various programs and camps, conducting various welfare and dyslexia awareness programs with the University of Malta's team in India regularly, and a lot more. So we welcome you, Dr. Edward Fenech, to the international webinar series. Kindly unmute yourself. You can start your video and your presentation. You are muted, sir. You have to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, so once again, good evening. And it's a great pleasure being with you today because I hope to be able to bring up a subject which unfortunately is not in the forefront in many areas of the world, as dyslexia tends to be forgotten and it's given different labels. In India, under legislation, it is a disability. In my opinion, it's a learning difficulty. It was registered as a disability because that was the only act that was available for dyslexia to be included. And consequently, in India today, in order to be classified for help, you have to go through a psychological test in order for you to be certified as being dyslexic. Well, in reality, dyslexia is something that one is born with. It is inherited, and it affects at least 5 to 15% of any nation. It is estimated that in India there are over 30 million people who have dyslexia, and therefore it cannot be dismissed as just something else. The greatest problem with analyzing dyslexia is that most people cannot be really properly said, look, you're dyslexic. It takes time because they look like everybody else, they act like everybody else, and it is a matter of them falling over hurdles which have been built over the years by other people. Up to the time of the Industrial Revolution, the importance of writing and reading were not as strong. And consequently, 20% or so used to be people who used to be hands-on, they used to be creators, and they worked according to a system that did not require reading and writing. But with the Industrial Revolution, with the need to put things into categories, then people with dyslexia started becoming a minority and started having a number of problems because the whole system did not fit in to their kind of learning or their kind of thinking. So as an introduction, I just wish to say that I don't believe it is a disability. I believe that the dyslexia that I have had has been difficult, but it has been also a gift. And I wish to clarify very clearly that it is a road that can lead to a lot of problems for an individual because society makes it difficult for that individual. So let me first start with my own experience as a dyslexic person. I was born some time ago. I was born on November the 27th, 1948. So I am 74 on my next birthday. And I have lived with dyslexia all my life. The difference between dyslexia today and dyslexia when I was a child is that today, at an early stage, a child is given a label, and that label is that he is dyslexic or she is dyslexic. I did not realize and did not know that I was dyslexic until I reached my 50s. So I went through life not knowing that I was dyslexic, but I did know that I went through life different than other people. Now, as far as my background is concerned, my father at the time of my birth was a headmaster. He was the secretary of the Malta Union of Teachers, and as such, he was an educator. He later went on to become an officer in the English Air Force, and as a late career, he became a veterinary practitioner. And so consequently, I had a very intelligent father who could not fully understand his son. I could not read simple sentences from a very young age. I remember very well my father had brought in special dictionaries which had pictures and had letters, and he would ask me to read simple lines like, "The cat sat on the mat." and he would point to the letters, he would point to the words, he would say the words, and then he would say to me, right now, Edward, you read it, and I would remain silent. And perhaps for me, not knowing, that was my first call that I am dyslexic, but for my father, it was pure frustration, because no matter how he tried, it just would not sink in. And this frustration, luckily, did not build up into what does happen with many parents towards their children, because sometimes parents tend to show an aggressive side to their child, thinking that they are lazy, that they don't want to cooperate, and so on. And it is a struggle for the parents as much as it is for the child. So the first years of my schooling were very happy, because I did not know, I did not think that I was any different than anybody else. The first time I realized that I was different was due to the educational system. Now, I need to explain that I was born Maltese, and I am Maltese, but at the age of 5, due to my father's career, we moved to the United Kingdom, to London, and I went through the school educational system in the United Kingdom. In England, at the age of 11, you're given a test, which is called the 11 plus. I failed miserably. I could not read and I could not write. And consequently, I went to a very large school in London called Tulse Hill. It was the first, what is known as comprehensive school in London, and it was a very disciplined school. However, it was a very large school. It had over 2,500 students, and every year it had at least 12 different streams of students. These students were, the first 4 classes were the bright ones, who were taught the Latin, Greek, and they were all expected to go to university. And as we went down to my class, which was class number 12, there were 13 in each stream, so I was one from the very bottom. I was put into the class that basically had no future. It had no future because each year one would progress. And if I came first every year, and from class 12, I went up to class 11 and then 10 and so on, I realized that I would not yet be good enough according to the school system to be able to sit for what was then called the GCE. And at the age of 11, I realized this, and I said to my father, I don't want to go to school anymore, because I can see very clearly that even if I do well, I could never succeed. And it took my father considerable time to talk me back to get back to school again. This was my first real being a rebel and being different, because I did give my father a good run for his money. Another time, I got offended that the teachers used to call me by my surname, Fenech, but I had to call them sir. And I thought that this was a total injustice. And again, I did another week refusing to go to school because I felt there was inequality in the way that I was being treated by my masters. So as a child, I managed to get through school in my own way, but my own way was definitely not the way that the academic system wanted me to go. And I had no idea that I was, in the eyes of the system, a total failure. I was a total failure because I would never be able to sit for exams. I could never go to a university. I could never do what perhaps I inspired to do, because at the age of 13, we were all gathered in front of educational officers, and we were asked what career would we like to do. And I recall very clearly that I said I would like to be an architect. And the evaluators looked at each other and said, has nobody told this child? And that went by, and really it was the first or second alarm that there was something different about me. This difference continued right to the end of my schooling. After the United Kingdom, I returned back to my home country here in Malta, and I was admitted to the Technical Institute. I was admitted to the Technical Institute because in Malta, all government schools required that the student should be able to speak Maltese and that the student should take religion. And they are two subjects which in the United Kingdom definitely were not part of the curriculum. So I was put into a technical college, and I only went there because I had an interest in architecture and I took civil engineering. However, after 1 year, the college decided that it would only go with mechanical and electrical engineering. My course was integrated into that. And one fine day, the principal had a lecture to all the students and said, if anybody here is just sitting and wasting his time, he might as well leave today. And to his shock, I actually went afterwards to his office and said, you're right, I'm leaving. And he did not want me to leave, but I did leave. And when I told my father that I was leaving, my father was very fair. He said to me, the bed and the food are still yours, but from now on, you have to work and you have to find a way of moving forward. So the first elements of dyslexia, which was my schooling, affected me in a way that meant that according to the system that was laid down, I had no future. However, I did not see it that way. I immediately went out, and thankfully, because I was brought up in such a manner, I had the character that could move me forward. And this is where I need to perhaps emphasize that education is more than just the letters and the figures. It is more than just about schooling. If one is fortunate and if one is able to have an education from home, this is the other pillar of life. I believe there are two pillars in life, and that pillar is the schooling that you get, and the other one is that which you get from home. And I was exposed to a very wide cultural background. I learned classical music at a very young age. At a very young age, to this very day, I knew about Tchaikovsky, Mozart, Wagner, and other people in the music. I also knew about art. I was exposed to geographical and historical events. My father would take me as frequently as possible to museums. And so, without knowing, I received an education. And that education was the main pillar and foundation stone of my character that brought me forward as time went by. School, I never would say that I did not enjoy school, but I don't think I really participated. I used to spend a long time looking out of the window, and I used to spend a long time really not knowing what was happening because I could not even copy from a blackboard. I could not keep up with the pace of the teacher's writing. He would just wipe everything off and I would have got halfway down. I could not read and I could not write, and I started my working life with that background. In order to safeguard myself, I used to move from job to job, and I never found it difficult to find work. My first work was with a surveyor. I used to survey land and we used to lay it out. Then I went and worked with television. I had a lot of other jobs. And finally, one day, I was able to get myself a scholarship, which is another miracle in life. There was a scholarship by the German government, and they wanted people to study hotel management. And I was told by everybody, you needn't bother. But I did. I applied. And when I say I applied, I didn't fill it up. My brother filled it up for me. I was still having difficulty at the age of 20 in writing and reading. And by some miracle, and by my own ability to talk, I managed to get a 3-year scholarship in Germany, where I got my qualifications in hotel management. But the shock was not just that. All the exams were in German. And I can tell you that I don't really think I ever learnt or mastered the German language, because when you use certain words in German, in economics and in other aspects, they are so difficult that they are really, really hard to remember. However, halfway through, I was told that I had little chance of passing. And that was enough to put determination to me. And I managed to pass 13 subjects, all of them, and I got my qualifications. This was the second time in my life that I was challenged. I was challenged at school once when my technical teacher said to my father that I was not coming to school, that I was not doing this and so on. I disagreed with him. I never went into his class. I always asked the students what they had learnt, and it was the first time and the only time I came first. And I still have the book today, which is the works of Oscar Wilde, which I could not read at the time. So the challenge for a person with dyslexia is different to everybody. People with dyslexia come with different blessings. And I don't really think that it is necessarily a handicap. It is a handicap because society looks upon us as being that way because we haven't mastered what they expected us to master. And so slowly and surely, I joined the workforce. I got my qualifications, and I did not at any time look back once I got my qualifications. But life was absolutely difficult. When you are in management, you have to read and write many reports. And I, at a very young age, at the age of 24, already was general manager of a 5-star hotel. And it was absolutely difficult writing reports and doing these reports. I would have to write them 3, 4, 5 times, reread them, and then still there would be a mistake. And luckily, it was a good investment. My wife, who is very good at English, was my lifesaver. I would say to her, right now, have a last read and see if there's anything wrong in this. And this went on for many, many, many years. I could not master to read and write properly. Although I could do just about everything else, reading and writing were a tremendous difficulty. I had an interesting career because it's been in management at all different levels, with airline management, hotel management, retail management, some of the largest retailers in the world in Australia and in Japan. And it was a very difficult mental exercise. I have many friends who are qualified and who are dyslexic. And I have met these friends of mine and we have discussed the pressure on those people with dyslexia is not seen by the majority. The parents may see it, but the parents are also judging in a different way. What is a fact is that it leads you to a wall. You reach a time in life when you reach this wall where you believe that you do not fit in with society because the demands of society, in the way that it was written down, in the way that society has demanded that you have to follow these particular rules, they actually get to you at a particular time. And sadly, people like myself and like other good friends of mine reach the stage of contemplating suicide. And it is a surreal feeling because many people who commit suicide plan it to the latter. They're very clean in what they do. They make sure they leave no mess behind. They leave all their clothes clean and so on. And one goes through a process. And it is lucky that my friends and myself, we managed finally at the end to break out and to move forward. Dyslexia is misunderstood. Dyslexia is punished in many ways, and that should not be the case. The new way of looking at dyslexia is to analyze the child at an early age and to start adjusting accordingly. However, society still does not accept, if you put in your CV that you are dyslexic, that you're going to get a job. In fact, if you are honest that you are dyslexic, it will be a hindrance. And one of my last positions as chief executive officer of one of the largest companies in Malta, a few years after, or perhaps just before I retired, I told the chairman and the board that I was dyslexic, and they looked at me in amazement. And they said to me, well, it's a good job we didn't know when you originally applied, because we may not have employed you. And this is part of the stigma, was to which direction one should go and what one should do. Because dyslexia is definitely not a disability. If it is a disability, why did Einstein succeed? Because he was dyslexic. Why did people like, I don't know if you know him, Richard Burton, and there are other people as well. So I don't recall them now, but there are famous people who have succeeded exceptionally well in life, and they were dyslexic. Some of the greatest architects, dyslexic. Some of the greatest artists, dyslexic. Some of the greatest engineers, dyslexic. If you look at NASA, according to them, they employ more people in their engineering division that are dyslexic than any others. And it is for a simple reason. And the reason is that we tend to think out of the box. We do not think in the manner that others think. We have a pattern of thinking that is different. I recall I used to be working with a very successful airline at the time, which was Air Malta, and we were developing a hotel. And I would meet with the architects and the engineers and so on, and I would say absolutely nothing until the very end, because I needed to absorb everything. And I can honestly say that when I spoke at the end, they would look at each other and say, well, why didn't we think of this before? Or why have we spent so much time? Let's do what Edward says, because a dyslexic person thinks differently. And that is basically a quick cross-reference of myself. But I do look at the greater picture. I have been coming to India since 2004 tsunami. During that period, I came mainly for the reason of helping by building orphanages for a very large school with 1,800 students, helping in areas of the medical field. But one thing that shocked me was that when the school that I have helped to build was opened, I recall talking to the principals, to the teachers and so on, and their knowledge of dyslexia was just about zero. I was even told we do not have any dyslexic students in the school. And I realized that dyslexia in India had not developed in the same way it had in America or in England, or perhaps even in my own country, and that there was needed to be an awareness program. And approximately 10 years ago, I started an awareness program, and I managed to get a few years after the University of Malta to join me, and two very prominent individuals, one the international president of the Counselling Association, and another one on the board of the English Board of Dyslexia, joined me. At one of these meetings, I met Dr. Miria, and Dr. Miria was also involved in special needs, and consequently, she became my helper in India in order to be able to continue attending other universities and doing lectures and seminars there. Also, another young Indian man, Amal, took a great interest, and today I'm very pleased to say that he's going for his master's in this particular subject. So there has been some ripples and there has been some success, but the road is very long. There is a tremendous denial. I have met so many people who tell me, listen, my child is this. And these are people who are educated people, people who are high-ranking people. But the schools do not cater for people with dyslexia because the greater part of schools are more concerned in the results of their students being of an exceptional level, and they don't want anybody who's going to let them down. And this happened once, sadly, to a young boy who I managed to get a scholarship. And after a year, I realized that they did not keep him there anymore because they told me he did not reach the standard. How can a child reach the standard? A child is a child. They must be allowed to develop. They must be allowed to reach some form of target that is not our target, because we tend to be literally judging others. We should not judge others. Everybody has a place in life. Everybody has a merit in life. And the fact that we continue to put down these rules and regulations is wrong. We need to be more flexible in the systems that we have. But, as I say, all that I have come across in India in particular with reference to dyslexia is that the greater part of those who attend seminars, the greater part of those who have got out and gone and got qualifications in the subject are there for personal reasons. They're there because their child was dyslexic or their child's had a learning difficulty or whatever it may be. And that group is not strong enough to change the tide. The tide has to be changed by stronger lobbying. The tide has to be changed by finding sympathizers within authorities and government who perhaps have children with dyslexia. And there needs to be a tremendous improvement in the way that people with special needs, people with dyslexia, are treated in India. In India, it is a society that is a wonderful one. I mean, I have spent so much time mainly in Tamil Nadu, and the people are genuine. The people are unique. The people, in my opinion, are a wonderful example. They're hardworking. They want to sacrifice themselves for their children, but yet they are not supported. And this support is important. The educational system must see that it can and will be able to help people who really need it. And that has to be a total movement between administration, teachers, and within the parents. They all need to be educated. It's not just a case of educating the child. The parents have to be educated to learn with a child that is dyslexic. The teachers need to know that there are teaching methods that are suitable for dyslexic children. And so in this short interlude of what I believe is the situation, my own story and so on, I come to perhaps a conclusion on the importance of inclusion. Dr. Maria spoke about it. Even in her own presentation, you could see there was the despair of, we have managed to take the horse to water, but we cannot make it drink. There is so much being done to move forward, but it is that final breakthrough, I think, that we're all looking for. I think we're looking for it in all aspects of learning difficulties and people who need help. After all, when you really consider and you accept the fact that there are over 30 million people in India with dyslexia, they should not be disadvantaged. Life is hard enough just making it when you are advantaged, let alone when you're totally disadvantaged. And they shouldn't be disadvantaged. We tend to judge people at a too early age. People can develop, people can grow. We just need to give them the space, we need to give them the strength, and we need to give them the support to grow. I thank you for your time. Would there be any questions?
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful insights about how you have handled your entire life being dyslexic, and you have been very successful in your career and as well as personal life. It gives a lot of motivation for everyone. So that disability should not be a disability.
It is not a disability, because I can assure you that the fact that a person is able to think out of the box is perhaps some of the blessings of life. There is a professor called Edward de Bono who is involved in what was called lateral thinking. And lateral thinking is literally the ability to do things in a different way. And dyslexic people do things in a different way, and they do get better results.
Yeah, very well said. The special abilities that has been gifted to the child. Yeah, Mary ma'am.
Hi, sir. Wonderful talk, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, I am from medical psychiatric background. I've done my master's in social work. There's a place in Bangalore, which is the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. I've heard about dyslexia, but not in detail. Today only I got to know everything. So I think so you have mastered the subjects, a lot of information and lot of points I had noted down from your lecture. It was a wonderful and lot of takeaway for me, because I'm new to the subject and I learned only gist, but it's a lot. Hope to see you again in our sessions, sir. All the best for your life and all the best for your future sessions and future career. I wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you so much. It is important that dyslexia becomes a subject that is at least known in schools, because the greatest problem is that there are too many schools that deny dyslexia, and this is not at all acceptable. Every student must be given the opportunity, and that opportunity must be there. It cannot be denied. You cannot, at the age of 12, tell a child you're not going to succeed. And this is a cardinal sin. It is disgraceful that children at such a young age are rejected by schools because the schools think they're going to fail. Will there be any other questions? Hello.
Hello, Dr. Edward. How are you? This is Daisy.
I'm very well, thank you.
Nice to see you. And very nice talk, as always. Knowing you for so many years now. So I'll do that. Wonderful talk. And I wish to have you sometime soon on board here at my place.
I hope to be in India at the end of September, October.
Nice.
So definitely the opportunity will arise. I know what you do, and I know the work that you do, which is very much parallel as to what I'm talking about. And I really see these little flames of hope, but we do need to get the flame a little higher.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, good evening to everyone. Am I audible?
You definitely are.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Edward, for accepting our invitation. And the reason why I wanted you to address us here tonight is, there is so much we need to know, especially where the specific learning disability is concerned. And there are very few people, as Mary had just expressed, that there is so much. It's an ocean. What you just spoke to us is about yourself, but then the whole topic itself is so much to learn about. And I really am happy that you accepted. And I must thank even Dr. Ravindra for having given us the opportunity. And here is one Mr. Hussein Iqbal who would like to talk to Edward. Sir, can you unmute him so that he can speak?
Yeah, I have unmuted myself, ma'am.
Okay, okay. You can now ask your question, sir.
Good evening, Mr.
Good.
Edward French. Well, I am connected with the school where we have just started. It was started as a community school, but now, now we have expanded ourselves to reach out to everybody after having seen the difficulties of dyslexia. That's one this thing which we are going through. The name of the institution, parent institution, is known as Anjuman-e Himayat Islam, and the unit is known as Darul Ansar Center for Applied Learning. We have almost about 100 children on various disabilities. In that, dyslexia takes the biggest seat. But this has come after many coaxing of the parents and the schools also in India, as you rightly said in your speech also, that when you had funded some school and then you found the teachers did not know what is dyslexia and things like that. Here we had an orphanage where I'm connected is an orphanage where we have got a school. There also we had the similar problem. But then later on when we researched out in 2010 and 11, one Dr. Salahuddin and we were a team of people who researched this and found that the most of the children being sent out without completing their school was dyslexic. So we made a point to the management and said, no more sending anybody out of the orphanage or school till the problems are. So that is how we started this Center for Learning Disability. Of course, we have got other disabilities, but mainly dyslexia. But parents, I have seen many, my own brother's granddaughter, she's a dyslexic, and I see very, very this thing when I sit with her, ask her to do it. But it's very difficult to convince the parents here in India. They think you're talking mad. But when the school starts sending them back home when they are in 8th standard, 8th grade or 9th grade, only then they realize. And that time it's really an Herculean task. So we have now bridged here with this thing, what do you call, for me, I want a suggestion from you. How do we look after the children? Okay, early stages is fine if they are 5 or 6 years old. But if they are 12 and 13 and 14, how do we go about getting them much more involved in the education part of it, Dr.
Well, one of the most important things is realizing that these children may not be good at reading and writing, but they may have something else. Most people with dyslexia have different strengths. And one thing that one needs to find out is what these strengths are and to encourage. So, example, if the child is very good at drawing, then there should be encouragement on drawing, because there are other elements of life. And whilst the institutions are insisting that we must learn to read and write, there is the other aspect of a human, and that is his character. His character carries that person. I know, because I have in my lifetime interviewed so many people who have come out of university, but they were useless because they had no character. So education is not just about the reading and the writing, it is about the character. And if a person is not doing too well at school, then work on the character, bring out the goodness in that individual, because miracles cannot happen. You know, if a person like I was just refuses, and I must admit, I think I refused because the system just did not in any way work for me. You couldn't make me change my way. But I was encouraged to do 101 other things. And the encouragement of finding other avenues is important, which is difficult because in England, as an example, after school, there is after school activity. So after school, you can become a member of the geography club, the history club, the music club, whatever it may be. And you can spend 1 hour after at school doing an activity of your liking. It was education without the student knowing it. So that's one aspect. The other thing is the family environment. Now, I know how the families are in the majority of the southern area, and it's a struggle. It's a struggle because of the weather, it's a struggle because of the work, it's a struggle because of everything. And there is very little that is conducive at home to give you an education. But there has to be different things. If the child likes gardening, let them do gardening, whatever it may be. We must encourage them to do what they can do first, and then to try and capture them to do what we want them to do.
Thank you, Mr. Edward. But this is an institution in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu. Of course, I am associated with Dr. Maria also, in various other aspects of things with her.
There is an important thing, and that is, even in small ways, there is a film, an Indian film called Tara Zeeman Pa. I think it's like Stars on Earth. It's a very good film about dyslexia. And
come again.
I think it's pronounced Tara Zeeman Par.
Yeah.
If I can spell it to you, it is Taare. ZAMEEN, and then PAR.
Oh, it's Tare Zameen Par.
That's right.
Tare Zameen Par. That
is a movie.
That's a movie.
That's right. And that is a movie that, in my opinion, it captures dyslexia exceptionally well. And I think it's a movie that parents and teachers should see, because it is capturing the reality of the whole thing. Because I was called a late achiever. I was called a dreamer. I was called everything on earth because they didn't understand what was happening in my mind. And we need to understand that, punishment doesn't work. You cannot punish a person because they didn't do their homework, because it's a stupidity to do so. You cannot put the same disciplines on. You need to work with the person. Look, in all societies, there's only 33% which are really brilliant and will move on. The other 33 struggle, and the other 33 are really looked upon as not going anywhere. So we have a majority problem, but we only look at the minority. We only want people to succeed. If you're a good cricketer, nobody knows about you until you played with India and you scored 100 runs. You could have played cricket all your life. People only like success, and it goes in every spectrum of life. So we need to give these children an element of well-being, of feeling they are part of a family. And when we take children to school and we punish them because they haven't succeeded, or we put pressure on them, it has a counter effect.
Thank you, Disi. I look forward to meeting you in person when you come sometime in September, October. Of course, I'm in touch with Dr. Maria.
Thank you.
And so we'll definitely have a session or a program conducted for awareness, because still awareness is the biggest drawback, because it's a social stigma with the parents.
That's I agree with you. Yeah. And it will take time to change, but we must work on it all the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Maria, for putting me on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Hussain. I would like to just inform everyone who are participating this evening that Mr. Hussain is such a wonderful person. Why I have to tell about him here is his interest in helping the children to the school that he is part of. And I can see, I've always seen his keen interest. Always he'll be calling me to ask about some doubts or whatever we need to know. And why I invited him, I specifically gave him the invitation at a very late time today because I was busy with so many other things. And thank you, Mr. Hussain. I can
Oh,
see
Joe, it's my pleasure.
your,
Thank
your
you very much
dedication.
for having met Dr. Edward French itself.
Yeah. And sir, to tell you, Dr. Edward Fenech, we have been associated way back from 2016. And his passion is only to create awareness. I mean, I wouldn't say only, but most of the time he has been coming to India. And whenever he was doing his other, activities in India for many years, for more than 2 decades, I think he has been supporting an orphanage, a high school, and all the activities whichever was close to his heart, and also feeding of the people during the COVID-19 pandemic. And why I would like to stress is, as you said, like, you want him to address your parents and other people when the time he's coming in September. And sir, during the pandemic, he couldn't come down. And every day he's expressing his anguish about not being able to have come to, these last 2 years. So this time he's planning, but it will be like mainly specific programs. Okay, sir? So
Yeah.
we look forward to be associated with you also. And just to add a few things on learning disability out of my experience. And first of all, I can see Madam Dr. Anne here, Estrada. I can see Dr. Arukya Reddy from all the way hearing from Sharjah. Through him, I was also being able to do a presentation on autism and awareness, acceptance, sorry. So, sir, thank you very much for all of you who are participating today. And also Jayashree. These are the people whom I know for a long time. I would just like to say, like, that learning disability or specific learning disability became part of the 2016 Disability Act.
RPWD Act.
Yeah, RPWD Act in 2016, and though implemented in 2017. As Dr. Edward rightly pointed out, because he was here in 2018 and 2019, and we had a very good discussion along with the director of NIPMET. The then director was there, Himanshu Das, and we discussed so many factors. And I just have to congratulate Dr. Edward because of his knowledge and what's happening in this part of the world, all the way from Malta. He's, having information in his fingertips regarding the things that are happening with learning disability. One of the main concerns as a special educator, and also the other special educators who are here, will definitely agree with me that the assessment in our country of the person with learning disability is a great challenge, because all the assessment scales that we have, most of it are in English. But then we are in a land of so many languages, like more than 200 spoken languages are there, or even written scripts are there. Now, what do? Do we have an assessment for the specific learning disability in Tamil? And as Dr. Edward rightly pointed out, like, you cannot simply either stamp a person as a learning disability or say, like, he's not able to study or taking him away from the school. It's really a wrong practice, I feel. But as far as I know, there has been some Tamil translation, scale for the Tamil language by Dr. Jayanti Narayanan, but still it is not approved. So we really have a great task or a great journey ahead of us in helping our children with different dialects and scripts. Thank you so much. This is something I wanted to point out. And Mr. Hussain, you rightly pointed out, how do we channelize them apart from their writing and their reading skills? So Dr. Edward has clearly said, like, some vocational aspects which I think you have introduced in your.
Yeah, you are aware now that we have got
Yeah,
so many
yeah. So many
vocational this
vocations,
thing which
yeah.
you have started,
Yeah,
including weaving therapy and the things like that.
Yeah. So that is a good, intervention, sir. And we can take these children across their own abilities or characters, as Dr. Edward pointed out. Thank you so much.
1 minute, Dr. Maria, I would just want to tell Dr. Edward, ours is a totally an orphanage institution where now we have opened our doors for everybody, irrespective of caste, creed, color, or anything. And now we find I already have only dyslexic children to a tune of almost about 60, 65 children. And we have, and each class we have given with a special educator with 5 students, 6 students. Plus we have other disabilities. Now we have, this year we have got a lot of autism children, and which I was discussing with Dr. Maria also. So our strength today is, it's a well established center like thing. We have almost, we are building another 2 floors and things. We have almost about 40,000 square feet. So we want to expand and give the best to this dyslexic, so that at least when the parents see the infrastructure, they will see that the child should. We have made it as a regular school going thing instead of coming for 1 hour or 2 hours as a center. We have made it as a school timing, so that if there is a sibling at home also, that does not hinder this child's going to school and coming back. It is just like any other child going to a school and come, like inclusiveness. We are doing our best for inclusiveness, because since we have two schools in the same campus. Ours is a huge campus with about 15 acres with 3 schools, including the learning disability school and things like that. So this is a point where, and basically it's an orphanage where we have children from the lowest strata of the community and of Tamil Nadu. So this is what I just wanted to brief. Thank
Mr.
you very
Hussain,
much.
this is Dr. Jayashree. Can I connect with you? I'm also a Rotarian.
Yes.
I'd like to connect with you, see how we can help many more children, because this is a big project this year.
I'm ready, ma'am. You can always.
So how do I connect with you? Can I have your number or something?
Yes, Maria, ma'am, you can give her my number, ma'am. 98840 70480.
98840
70480.
Okay, 98840 70480, right?
My name is Hussain Iqbal Shah. I'm the co-chairman of this institution.
98840
0
70
480.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I don't know who has this child, but that is the brightest thing. It is the brightest thing I have heard today. Thank you for putting the child on. It brought a lot of joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward Finch. It was a really insightful session and a good interaction. And thanks once again, Dr. Maria, for introducing and inviting Edward French. It was really nice, and we look forward for more sessions from you in future on dyslexia. And maybe we can further collaborate in future events as well.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, doctor.
So if there are no queries, if anyone has any queries, you can unmute yourself and ask, or if you have any observation, comments, otherwise we'll move on to conclude. Okay, so assuming there are no further clarifications, it was really a lot of appreciation from everyone. Thank you once again, Edward French, for joining us on behalf of Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Arts, Sciences and Wellbeing. We thank you once again for joining us and contributing to this wonderful international webinar series. and look forward for your future sessions as well, and wishing you all the success.
Thank you. Bless you all. Thank you.
Dear participants, the feedback form is being shared in the chat box. Kindly fill up the feedback form. It's mandatory for receiving the certificate. And certificate will be issued within 15 working days. You can visit the website, International Webinar Series website, and you can download your certificate. So kindly fill up the feedback form. Dear participants, quickly fill up the feedback form. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow at the same time with a different topic and different speaker. Tomorrow we are having a special celebration, commemorating an occasion of World No Tobacco Day. So International No Tobacco Day. So we are having wonderful sessions from 6 to 10 in the evening. So it's an international webinar. So kindly do join us tomorrow at sharp 6 p.m. We will have wonderful deliberations by the speakers. And if you know any of the resource persons, or if you are expert in any field, you would like to join our international webinar series, you are welcome and invited. You can contact us. Contact number has been shared already with the registration form, and you can visit also our website. There is a registration form. You can fill the registration form for speaker, presenter, and also you can contact me on my WhatsApp with the presentation details so that we can schedule your presentation. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. Before leaving, kindly fill up the feedback form.